Hey guys, and welcome back to Rage Gaming, and what will certainly be a silly video. Today I'm talking about the classes and ordering them for the theme of the Dark Urge just for fun. That's because patch 7 is coming, and with that we expect some, new evil playthroughs, a lot more people trying those. And on that topic, what would be best and worst for a Dirge themed playthrough in terms of class? Naturally, there's two sides to the Dark Urge, the one that leans into the Dark Temptations, which should probably be more popular with patch 7, or the other side where, they resist it. I'm going to focus more on the Dark Urges, but we will mention some themed resistance stuff too. Finally, I'll also rank them with a recommended or reference build in case you're thinking about something like honor mode. So let's get started, beginning from the bottom with C, where we have Druid, and I'm also placing Ranger. For Druid and the Dark Urges, I just find it goes against the concept. Defending the land against those that threaten its natural order, summoning elemental forces, healing, the kind of core principles of a druid. On the other hand, there are some cool on-theme stuff you could imagine, transforming into a bear or wolf or whatever, a spider, ripping someone apart. Or if you want to go spell-wise, using nature like grasping vines to grab someone and wrap them up and choke them. It's just, as a druid in my head, I see this as a clear purpose behind it in regards to nature and defending, say, a forest. In terms of transformation, the Dark Urge has its own options for that, which kind of overwrite this concept. I think it absolutely can work for this theme. It's just one that I find harder to justify. In terms of build though, I think Moon Druid works the best. Those transformations. Moon Druid's very popular and effective in honor mode. It's versatile, survivable, so that's probably what I would do. Now for similar reasons, I also have Ranger and C here. Again, the Ranger respects nature, is relatively one with it. They can have animal companions as a Beastmaster. I just can't imagine a Dark Urge treating its beasts too well. Having that kind of companionship, it just doesn't work for me. On the other hand, you have something like Gloomstalker, which is all about destroying the enemy in one turn effectively from the shadows. That does work for this concept. There's just nothing so visceral about it as like firing an arrow from far away and running away. Absolutely strong as hell, especially if multiclass right. It's just not the concept of a Dark Urge I imagine. But if you were going to go Ranger, the well-known Gloomstalker assassin build is top tier, obviously. This brings us to B tier, where first I have Cleric in B, and the other class that I've got here is also Monk. First up, the Cleric, which is a funny one. If you're going to go for a resist the Dark Urge playthrough, I think the Cleric works amazingly in many ways. There's so many subclasses to pick, but the top tier pick for this is probably Life Cleric for the raw healing that it has. The best in the game. The idea that the Dirge is desperately fighting its urges and instead healing and supporting everyone. It's funny as well as effective. But for a proper Dirge specifically, there are actually good DPS focused builds you could go. War Domain is obvious. Tempest Cleric, setting up the fight for lightning based damage. But I would probably go light overall for the well-rounded approach. You do have some healing options, buffs, control, general utility from the Cleric, while still fitting the theme in its own way, burning enemies in blinding light. It's just because it's like this kind of holy design that I wouldn't really put it above a B. On the other hand, you could argue higher for the Monk that I also have here in B. I think if you're imagining the Dark Urge Monk as someone getting up close and personal, punching the life out of someone, tearing them apart with their hands, that does work and absolutely can and will be a great option for honor mode or something with the maximum punches per turn build, which is so effective because of Tavern Brawler. The issue with Monk for Dirge is the concept behind Monk itself. Where the Dirge is this monster of passion, the Monk is powered by meditation, self-control, manipulating their ki to power their strikes. I see the Monk as one who has complete control over their emotions, so yeah, actually good for resisting, but not necessarily leaning into the Dark Urges, at least in my head. Maybe a Shadow style Monk would work better for this, but that is not ideal in mechanics for Baldurs Gate 3. Next though, we have our A tier picks. So let's start with the Rogue in A tier. I find this fits much better than the Ranger. It's much more self-centered, it's much more up close and personal, and importantly, bloody because of it. The Assassin probably works best conceptually here, and you could play it much like the same burst style of a Gloomstalker Assassin multiclass, but more melee, which is certainly a lot more risky. I like the idea for a Dark Urge also to be a thief, breaking into places they shouldn't, to steal and so on, but most importantly, kill without resistance with the surprise and stealth behind that. I mean, I imagine Orin is a great example here with her dual-wielded blades. She's, quite stealthy. She does a lot of shape-shifting to trick and ultimately assassinate people in intimate places. Works very well, but we aren't able to shapeshift in that kind of way, so it's not perfect. But a melee-focused version of the Gloomstalker Assassin burst build might not be as good as the proper one, but it's on theme in a good way, so that's why I have Rogue in A A overall. Next in A, I have Wizard for many reasons. I actually like the Dark Urge as a spellcaster in general, and with a Wizard you have so many options because of it. From suitable concepts like disintegrating some poor person, spreading poison through cloud kill, burning your foes in so many ways, I think it works great, but I've not got it in S. That's because the core concept of a Wizard comes from, hard study, to learn the magic through constant practice and dedication over years and years. Something about the Dark Urge to me is that he's just kind of born and built different. Obviously, and spoiler warning here as a heads up, the Dark Urge is a battle spawn, and the Durge kind of woke up the monster we know today. So having to earn those powers feels a bit off to me. That's why I place Sorcerer as the very same concept above this, as we'll reference in short soon. In terms of build though, I think the classic Abjuration Wizard that's all about building up massive AC and temporary health while reflecting damage is, very effective and survivable for something like Honor Mode. Making yourself nigh on invincible and getting in there with your horrible range of spells could be great. Evocation, if you're just going raw damage though, might be a good alternative. Now also in A, for similar reasons, I've got the Warlock. Something about this Dark Urge with his Dark Pact makes a lot of sense to me. There's many ways you could swing that as well, but as a core example, we've got like Eldritch Blast. You can do so much with spamming, destroying foes, sending them flying, hit them many times or spread the damage around. The spells in general fit the darker theme. Or you could go more melee focused with Pact of the Blade, maybe do some good multiclassing, be very deceptive with your high charisma, spread the darkness that doesn't affect you because you can see through it, the control you get with that. The issue here is actually where the power's coming from with the Pact. You're being granted it by a specific entity outside of, say, the real god a Dark Urge might serve. It's somewhat conflicting in that way, so that's why I'm actually keeping it in A. Still, if I was going to play it, I'd definitely go a potent Eldritch Blast build for that, smashing targets with many on-hit increasing effects per tick of the blast. That works amazing, especially in Honor Mode where high DPS is great. Finally, for A, we have the Fighter. Much like Wizard and Sorcerer, I also see Fighter and Barbarian in a similar light. Fighter can dominate the fight up close and personal with incredible control, especially if you're going the Blade Master subclass. You've got that wide range of fighting styles that will work well if you want to use a big sword or a big axe or multiple weapons at once. You could go ranged, whatever. Battle Master works great though because you've got things like menacing attacks to instill fear in your enemies, or control them with disarm, or just, go all DPS sweep and cleave because you're able to attack many times a turn as, I say, pure fighter. You can also be great for DPS output or go defensive and control. There's a lot of suitable options that will be on theme. But because a fighter is more control compared to, say, I don't know, the bloodlust style of a barbarian going into a rage, I think it's outclassed thematically by the barbarian for this, so I keep fighter in A. Still, it works great, and there is a top tier build for Honor Mode with the Eldritch Knight version of the well-known Tavern Brawler Thrower build to use. Bit of magic in there, very survivable, and you don't have to use specific weapons since any weapon could be bound to you, so that's really nice. But this finally brings us to S tier, the best theme classes for Dark Urge in my opinion. And we're actually starting with Paladin. I think this is fantastic for both leaning into the Durge or resisting it. With resisting it, it's almost perfect. You're doing your absolute best to maintain your oath despite the situation and everything, like an extra challenging resist run. I love that. And that could be 3 of the 4 subclass options. Vengeance would be nice as a middle option, while the other 2 are going to be much more, full resist theme against the odds. But obviously, if we're thinking proper Dark Urge, Oathbreaker is just spot on. Dark and twisted like a Death Knight. Raising, controlling the dead, high damage based, just evil in design. Oathbreaker is also phenomenal for the basis of an Honor Mode build, netting you the Oathbreaker aura, the Aura of Hate. That's extra damage with your melee weapons based on your charisma, while also enhancing nearby fiends and undead that you might be building up and controlling. Paladin in general is rated so highly for its power as a DPS dealer or as a suitable frontliner with support and healing. Both will work either way you go, whether you want to go Dark Urge or resist. So I think it is validly in S tier. Next though, we have Sorcerer. As I mentioned, Sorcerer is just born different, just like the Dark Urge is. Your power just came to you, and through that you channel the on-theme destruction at foes. Missiles, fire, frost, lightning, brilliant burst and control. I just think this is perfect. And I also think it's the default option when you pick Dark Urge as the origin to begin with. So I'll keep this one short as I've already explained the reasoning with the Wizard, but for build I could see either a classic magic missile build or even better, Scorching Ray to really harm and make the enemy suffer. Though of course a lightning based multiclass of Tempest Cleric and Storm Sorcerer, that'd be perfect too. And all 3 of these are top tier DPS builds suitable for Honor Mode either way. Finally, for S tier though, I of course have Barbarian. There's something so spot on for the Dark Urge with the rage concept alone. Going mad, losing yourself in the middle of battle, ignoring what's happening to you or the enemies, kind of like blacking out, and at the end you find everyone just cleaved apart, which is literally the Dark Urge. You could go frontline style or typical OP throwing build using the berserking option for its frenzied throws. I certainly don't think this works for the resist theme, since you are like always intentionally raging and doing these things by comparison, but I really like the Barb for a proper Dark Urge playthrough, and the Throw Zerker is a very well known top tier build. But obviously, as you can see, I said finally, and there's one class that we don't have marked anywhere yet. That's because I've intentionally saved Bard for last. It's actually the most mixed to place in my opinion, and so I want your thoughts on this one. I'm not sure how people are going to place it. It's because this charismatic Bard playing his flute or whatever, it doesn't exactly feel bloodthirsty evil to me, but it does feel on theme if you were to imagine the Bard more as a death metal or screamo version, singing about dismembering people and the horrors of the dirge in general. The issue is that you can't really do that in the game unless we use some mods that probably exist, to be honest. I just find the Bard particularly hard to place, and so I think it could be right at the bottom or right at the top, depending on how you imagine it. Something tells me it's going to be a popular choice for dirge in general, so let me know what you think. But there you have it. That's my silly list of classes and builds that suit the theme for a Dark Urge playthrough. I think there's a lot of potential here if you ignore those meta builds and what's strong, and just do a playthrough that's worried about the theme rather than like the challenge of an honor mode defeat or whatever. I'm sure people will have different takes on this though. Let me know your reasoning if you do. Like say how you'd make a druid fit the theme as best you could. Just hopefully people see this as a fun thing rather than something to take too seriously. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.